Hey there, I'm Chris, host of the Smart Author podcast. In this episode, we speak about why it's important to build your community to launch your book to, and why your publisher doesn't care about marketing your book. Some of the main topics we will discuss today include why big publishers don't care about marketing your book, building a community to launch your book to, and being able to spend the most to acquire book buyers. At the end of this episode, please make sure you visit our website where you can find all the links mentioned with Sarah. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this awesome interview. Welcome back, everyone, to the Smart Author podcast. Today, I am joined by Sarah Petty. Sarah, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. Sarah is someone who I was recommended to bring onto the podcast just due to her massive book success, but then also, she's had really, really big success in helping, I think, an industry that is kind of underserved and undervalue themselves quite often. So, Sarah, I would love if you could tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you became an author.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started out, I somehow happened upon starting a photography business. I was a marketing director at an ad agency, got pregnant with twins, and just decided I didn't want to go back to working so many hours. I thought, I'll just start a business, kind of like everybody does, right? And it was a broken hot mess. And I thought, well, I either need to figure it out or I need to go get a job. So I spent time digging in, figuring pricing out, figuring out how to compete with free. When I started, it wasn't digital yet. I started in the days of film, but quickly it turned to digital. And so most people compete with cheap, but as a photographer, I compete with free. And so if I'm going to compete with free, because everyone has a camera, digital camera, especially now with iPhones in their pocket or camera phones. So I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to get people to pay more for something that's readily available? And so I created a photography studio. I started getting asked to speak. People were saying, how did you do it? How did you do it? And that's where Joy of Marketing was born in about 2005. And then we started talking about a book. My business partner joined me in 2009, and we started talking about, gosh, our community really needs a book, right? Talking about how to charge what you're worth and still thrill your clients. And so we kind of had it in our mind and ended up publishing it in about 2000. I think it was 2016. It's so funny how all the years run together, especially with the pandemic that we just got through. But it was really to help people see that high level view of the boutique business model. So our book wasn't written just for photographers. It was really for anybody who's trying to build a business that doesn't compete on price.
So it's more like the local service-based kind of business?
Well, we call it the boutique business model. A lot of people think of boutique as like a little gift shop in town. But on one side, you've got, like a fast food restaurant. You've got Hardee's, McDonald's, Wendy's, all competing on price, quick, cheap, easy. On the other side, you've got Ruth's Chris, a high-end sit-down steakhouse where you're going to invest, 20 times what you're investing at McDonald's, if not more. So we took photography from, that low end, giving digital files for a couple $100 to creating custom artwork for people's homes. So it's really talking about the model itself of how you do that in any industry. So it could be product focused. It could be, it could be service focused. It could be regional, but it's really meant for a locally owned business, not necessarily, definitely not a chain, right? Like Applebee's isn't going to read the book and go, oh, great ideas.
Yeah, cool. Makes sense. So you have actually got a couple of awesome accolades here on the best-selling side of things. You became a New York Times bestseller and a Wall Street Journal bestseller. What was the experience of achieving that? And then also, how many copies did it take to sell?
Yeah. So I know a lot of people say, oh, I have a book in me, I want to have a book. And we really we wanted to get our message out there. We weren't like, oh, we have all these words. We want to write this beautiful book. Ours was more like we had a message that we wanted out there. And Aaron and I, my co-author and business partner, we are both MBAs and we love marketing and we're like marketing nerds. And so we wanted a hardback book to sit on the shelf with names like Seth Godin and, legit high level marketers. So we wanted, we didn't want a paperback that we just designed ourselves, and nothing against that, right? Like you have to decide when you're deciding to make a book, what's the purpose? Because we do some little paperback books that we sort of self-publish in like hundreds or, thousands that we just give or whatever. But we wanted that long lasting hardback book that was going to sit on that shelf. And so we started looking at publishers, and it was sort of one of those things that we put out that we were wanting it, but we'd met with some publishers and it wasn't a groove, but we weren't actively pursuing it. And I came across an online training from sort of a boutique publisher. They were sort of a hybrid between like the big publishers and self-publishing. They work with you on editorial support and they get distribution for you. And we needed that support. Like we needed someone to help us mold our content and that kind of thing. And so we said, we want our goal was to have a best-selling book. We didn't want to just print a few hundred and be like, oh, we have a book. Because that was just a goal. We were both college athletes. We're super competitive. And we're like, if we're going to have a major book on bookshelves, we want it to be awesome. And we want it to hit a list somewhere. And so the publisher, I think, told us, and again, this was a lot of years ago. I feel like our first run was either $16,000 or $20,000. Or 20,000 books. I think it was about 16,000 is the number that sticks with me. And I mean, when you're with the boutique publisher, we paid up front to print them, but we own the rights and we kept most of the profit, right? Whereas if you work with a big publisher, they take all your rights to your content and you get paid like this much. Whereas we were getting, a lot more of that profit. And so that was just what was right for us, right? And we had the ability to do that at that time. And we leveraged everything we could to get those books sold. Like, because that's the other thing that I didn't understand. You're thinking, oh, I have a good book, everyone's going to buy it. No, that specific publisher was very particular about who they work with because they want you to have an audience. You are responsible, whether you use a big publisher or a small publisher, self-publish, you still have to have a platform and people who follow you, and you have to have the ability to market and sell the book. So we had no idea what a big deal that would be. And we're marketers, like our company is Joy of Marketing. We love marketing and sales, but it was a lot. It was a lot, super fun. And for us, it happened really fast.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 months from when we found them, signed with them and got it, like the final copy handed over. It was crazy.
I think a lot of people, especially when they go with publishers, they're like, oh yeah, cool. I can now forget about marketing. And it's like, marketing's like the lifeblood to your book and it having success. I would love your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. And I think people just assume the big publisher, they're going to give me an advance, they're going to whatever, but they only do that if they think that you're able to sell books. So if you're a celebrity and you have this massive following, it's a no-brainer, right? Because you put it out on Instagram, social media, and people flock and buy it. But you could be the best writer in the world and not get a contract. I mean, even like J.K. Rowling, I know she got declined so many times, and I think her stuff was just so good. Finally, it broke through. But I'm sure there are a lot of great writers out there who would love to have a bestseller, and content-wise, maybe could. But if nobody knows about them, it's harder to get a deal, right? It's harder to get a publisher that wants to work with you. Even our publisher, where we had to put a lot of money in, turns down tens of thousands of manuscripts because they're like, no one's going to buy it because no one knows who you are or what you're doing. You don't just, the field of dreams, build it and they will come, write it and they will come. They don't.
Yeah.
They really don't.
And I think that's the same for everything that you can do in business. But ultimately, so you had a business from 2006 and you eventually launched in 16. So you basically had spent the time doing your business, building a community as well alongside that. So by the time you had your book, you kind of had that audience to launch to.
Yeah. Yep. So I started my photography business in 1998, part-time while I was working. And then 2 weeks before 9/11 in 2001, I opened my first photography studio.
Mm,
So right in this, uncertain time, which is why I think I'm a good coach now, because people are all freaked out about the economy. I'm like, guys, no, don't blame the economy for your business failing. Like, you can make it through anything. But so then in 2005, started serving photographers. I had a little membership program. They'd pay like $39 a month. I'd mail them burning CDs and DVDs in the basement and packaging all of that up. And then in 2010, we started doing telesummits and launches. And that's when we started to grow our lists, like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. So we were building the community. And then I started speaking at all the national photography conventions.
mm-hmm.
And we started getting sponsorships. So companies
Wow.
were paying me to talk about their products. So I think if I hadn't have had both of those things, we wouldn't have been able to hit the bestseller list, because we were able to get some bulk sales as well as the individual sales, because you have to have both. I don't even know how it all works, but I had some speaking engagements and some sponsorships. So as we were negotiating the next year, we threw books in, right? Yeah. So like, here's what the sponsorship gets. And one was like a photo lab that mails out. So it wasn't hard for them to put the books in when people ordered things like their top clients, things like that. It wasn't hard for them from a distribution standpoint to get them in the hands of people. We had some at national conventions. They would stockpile or pre-order, and then I would do book signings at their booth that would drive traffic to their booth. So, it was a little early in social media, like barely Twitter. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
just where I think we would tweet that I'm going to be at this booth, and they would promote it through email. That's back when email was kind of a primary place to communicate with people, but there would be long lines of people. So it was great. It was great publicity, and it was exciting, and people were all taking pictures. Felt a little mini celebrity-ish, which, we're in a niche, like a vertical. So, and I wrote for the magazine. That was another strategy, right? Is you have to get all of the endorsements. Didn't know that, right? I was like, oh, the publisher's going to have all these great people talking about this book. No, they're like, so who's going to endorse your book? And we're like, what? You don't do that for us? So I've since endorsed a few people's books and supported people's launches, because I know how much work it is. But I wanted Seth Godin. I was like, I've got to find a way to get Seth Godin. I was like, I want Michael Gerber. I had really high hopes. I had Martha Stewart on my list. I had all these people on my list and got most of them. I didn't get Martha, but when Seth Godin sent praise, and then Michael Gerber actually wrote our foreword.
Awesome.
Which was amazing. He doesn't ever do that, right? His book was The E-Myth, which is talking about how to build that business that's bigger than just like the artist working in the shop. It's like working on your business instead of in your business. And so our book is like almost the sequel to it, of how do you work even less and be able to charge the higher price, so that people maybe say you're expensive, but that you're worth every penny. That's the name of our book, is Worth Every Penny. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to compete on price.
Yeah.
So I kind of Dream 100 of them, right? That's Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machines book, which his daughter took over his company when he died. And she's getting ready to launch, actually, I think even this week, her revised version of his book. So I was like, hey, let me know what I can do to help, because I know what this is like. But, he talks about Dream 100, like finding those people and just working until you get those people, you get that relationship. So I probably spent 2 years before we even launched the book, building those relationships, knowing that we have this book in us, and I was going to need to ask for an endorsement.
Wow. I mean, yeah. So that's so awesome. I would highly suggest everyone is taking notes on this, and just like, if you plan to launch, like, you need to do a bit of pre-work before you launch. And especially, building that community, I think, is so powerful. Building the network of people who you can promote to, and who is actually, the direct avatar, which I know a lot of people are smart enough listening here to make sure that that's, something that they're thinking about. Sarah, in today's day and age, would you do everything the same way all over again? Or is there a different way that you would go about what you accomplished?
Yeah, I think I would for sure use the strategies that worked. I'm sure everything gets harder with time as more people do things, but I think in this day and age, there are so many more affiliates, right? That I could go to people and say, what can I do for you? So other people that reach photographers, maybe they're selling products to photographers or teaching photography. We only teach business.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look for more. There are way more companies now who are doing what we do, who have online businesses that I could build relationships with, and if this one buys 10 and this one 20, and you just break it down to numbers, 100 at a time. And how do you get to that 20,000? Like I would shoot high, which you always want to do, right? And I would try to leverage every single relationship. And so again, those relationships, you can't just be like, hey, will you help me out? You start out right now. If you're thinking about a book, who can I help? How can I help them? And so you start building a lot of relationships of people that you've helped. So when you're ready to launch your book, they want to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you have to actually invest in that relationship. You actually have to give it and like show up and like really, really, do some work there to actually help them with what they're needing help with, so that there's a really good exchange in relationship. And a lot of people, I think when it comes to doing that, they haphazardly do it. They won't really put in the effort. That they just do a surface connection or relationship, and it's really just, it doesn't serve either of you at the end of the day. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. And then if you're writing a book, if you can speak on stages, even if they're smaller stages, and nowadays you can do virtual stages, so you can hit a lot of audiences and add value. So for example, if someone is launching a program that's complementary to yours, you say, hey, I'll come and speak at your event and I'll give a bonus with a bunch of training. If you would buy books for your, you have 200 people in your mastermind. If you buy books, like even if you sell them at cost, if you have that ability, again, it depends on your publisher, if they can do some bulk pricing or whatever to get some of those sold. And so you do that for a year and you're sort of getting commitments for people to purchase those books, and it adds value to their audience, right? They're putting it in a bundle, something they're already selling. Maybe they're having an event where they do a goodie bag anyway. But then they're getting awareness of you. They're getting excited about your message. You're telling them, oh my gosh, my book's coming out in the fall. You guys are all going to get one because your awesome, mentor has bought them for you. So there are a lot of ways. I mean, the word leverage can sound negative, but like you're literally leveraging all of those relationships. And if it's a relationship is give and take, right? It's mutually beneficial. You take care of other people and you help them and you find ways for them to help you that benefits them. They're not just going to do it because it's a favor. Like this is business.
Yeah.
All those sponsors that paid us money needed a return on that investment they were making in me, in the books, and whatever. So, I mean, I spoke for people. I got on stages. I spoke at trade show booths. Like I wasn't above doing anything I could to create enough value that they would say yes to the proposal. And I think almost all of them did, which was great.
Yeah. And I definitely think, like when people see the work that you're like willing to do, and you obviously believe in the brand and the people that you're referring as well, like it just, it kind of makes it's not easy, but it makes it really kind of straightforward to go out and do those things to really prep up that brand, or, make sure that you make those referrals or connections, because you believe in the service, you believe what they're trying to do. And then, vice versa, it's going to come full circle.
Yeah. And I think you have to be really clear on what the book is doing for you. Like for us, it wasn't ego. We weren't like, oh, we just want to have a best-selling book so we can look amazing. Like it was a strategic business decision because there was so much competition and, it seems like everybody's got a book. And so we're like, we want our book to be better, right? It's going to be a hardback published book that has Seth Godin's name on it and, sells so many copies. and that really makes change for people and opens doors for us, because you don't make money on the book. I think a lot of people think if you sell, I think we did a second run of 20,000 and we have a couple thousand left. So that's probably putting us near 35,000 maybe sold, coming up on 40,000, but you don't make money on that, right? It's a marketing tool. It's a positioning tool. It's a branding tool. It's a platform tool, right? That shows what our platform is, what we stand for. It's a sample, like Chick-fil-A, you'd walk by, they give you a little nugget and you're like, that's tasty. I'm going to come back and have a meal. So it's a calling card. It gives you credibility. It separates you. I don't know. I think it's a fabulous thing. I hope everybody listening has a book and wants to write the book, but just be really clear on what the book's going to do for you and how are you going to pay for the book? How are you going to market and promote the book? Who are your allies? Who can you help? And, really start thinking about that a couple years, maybe if you can, before you go like ready to write the book's written, let's publish it. Cause then you're almost too late to do that groundwork.
Yeah. So that actually transitioned us really nicely to what my next question was, which is when you wrote Worth Every Penny, what was your intention? Where did you want people to go next from the book?
Yeah, so the book is not specifically for photographers. So it's the boutique business model, right? How to charge more. And in any business you can find, there's a low price player and there's a high price player. There's Walmart, there's a Nordstrom, there's the cheap eyeglass place in the strip mall, and there's the ophthalmologist person who has the gorgeous, building and the custom, high service, and the same thing with the dentist in the strip mall and the one who does the beautiful veneers and all the fancy stuff. So it's any industry. And so we were thinking we would expand outside of photography, and that I would get all these speaking engagements in different spaces, which I did some. I spoke at like the national travel agencies, right? Because they're competing with free everycheapwebsite.com. And so it was great. And I've spoken for some higher level, more boutique universities and a lot of different things. But what I think we've discovered over time was, and we also wanted the credibility within this space. In the photography space, there's a lot of, people would get lambasted if the industry feels like you're not qualified to teach, or you're a fake or a fraud, or you're making promises that you can't back up. People will just jump on you with 2 feet. And we were seeing this happen. People were making videos about industry leaders. And I was like, I don't ever want that to happen. Yeah. Because I do run a profitable photography business. I do understand the numbers. I am actually doing it. And we wanted the credibility that came with it. So that's where we joke, like, it's an only child. It's going to be an only child book because it accomplished what we needed. And then we realized, like, we've come back to the photography space. We never left it, but we realized there's so much more. So now we've gone deeper into the niche that we're in, but I mean, our book's still selling. We use it as a free plus shipping funnel now. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yes, I'm very familiar actually. And most of my audience should be as well from my podcast episode. Okay,
great. So because we worked with this hybrid publisher and we have the rights to reprint the book, the way a free plus shipping funnel works is, say we charge $9.95. So it's a $25 book, and shipping is, sometimes $8 on a book. So, you could buy it from Amazon with free shipping, obviously, but we tell people, hey, we'll give you this book for free. And if you just pick up shipping and handling, we make it like $9.95. So for $9.95, we have to print the book. We have to warehouse the book. We have to pay for shipping, which I think they've gotten it down to like $3.50. And we have to have Facebook ad budget, all to be covered in that $9.95. And we have upsells on the back end. So that allows us to spend more. So anybody who understands the concept of what it costs to acquire a customer, Dan Kennedy really taught the industry that the person who can spend the most wins. Yeah. And it's not because we have a pile of money sitting here to spend, it's because we have a self-liquidating funnel. So we use the book now in a free plus shipping funnel. So we tell people free book, go get it, right? joymarketing.com/free book. People can go get the free book for $9.95, and then they're offered, oh, hey, do you have this? Do you want this next thing? Do you want a marketing calendar for your business? Or do you want a sales program? And enough people buy those little other things that it gives us like, I don't know, $18 or $19 cart value to pay for more ads. So we can pay more than the next guy. Okay. So that brings us new leads. It brings us people into our world. Like I think we have 150,000, between 130 and 150,000 active photographers on our list. We clean it up all the time, but you always have to be getting more. And so really in the last probably 2 years, it's really become a free plus shipping. It's a lead gen for us now. Because again, it gives us credibility. It's a New York Times bestselling book. People want it. They're new to the industry. Who's the leading expert? So that wasn't even a thing back. I mean, funnels were barely a thing back then. Russell was still building his potato guns, I think.
Yeah. I think 2016 was like when he was starting to get popular, which is actually when I entered the space. But yeah, so you utilize that to obviously self-liquidate the funnel for the ad spends and, the efforts there. What is the customer lifetime value for you? And like, how do you then, use that to build your list and then do marketing promotion for your courses and hire and coaching?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our business model is super simple now. We used to sell a lot of low price things and we realized people were getting stuck. And, so we have a couple free challenges a year where they come in and we give, every day I'm live and we teach them things. We get them super motivated and pumped up. And then we have a $3,800 starting course that's always going up. So if anybody watches this in 2 years, it's not going to be that price, but it will be worth every penny. But it's an 8-week workshop. We do it in small groups with coaches that walk you through how to become like every part of a portrait photography business. We give you the pricing, the template. We work on your brand, your name, your website, domain name, everything. I give you the selling system, the marketing system, and you're going out and doing it. So, and then we have a certain percentage of those that go to our 12-month program. We've got people in year 5. So we've been doing that about 5 years.
Cool.
So that's really our simple model. That's our value ladder. Free book, the challenge to, 8-week course to 12-month program.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. Nice and simple. And I think, that's the perfect way to wrap up this episode. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and giving so much value and insight to what you've been able to accomplish and your whole journey. Is there anywhere where you would love people to go and check out?
Yeah, joyofmarketing.com. If you know photographers, people in your life, everybody knows a photographer and they're out there working so hard, giving it away. Get them the book or send them to our website. We have so many free resources because my whole platform is I was a mom and I wanted to make money and put my family first. And portrait photography actually can do that for you. One client a week at a $2,000 order is a 6-figure business and you can do it really part-time. So it's a cool business. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll make sure that is linked as well as Sarah's funnel. Go check out the funnel if you are more of a local marketing business, or especially, if there's a photographer, go, tell them where the link is so they can get access to the book for a nice free plus shipping price. And, all the resources that Sarah offers. Thanks again, Sarah.
Hey, thank you.
What an awesome episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice so you get notified every single time a new episode releases. And if you're struggling with your book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit of your book sales to see where we can help you bridge the gap between not many sales to a lot of sales. It's a free resource call that we have together where I give you some clear action steps that you can take to take your stuff from broken to selling. I'll see you over there. Thanks again for listening.